If there was a movie, what would the synopsis be about this story about y'all's love?
I think what it actually says on Amazon Prime Video, indomitable matriarch Fox Rich fights to bring her husband home from a lengthy sentence while raising her 6 sons successfully.
Rob, how did you end up incarcerated?
We robbed the bank. Our youngest son had taken ill with something that doctors could not diagnose in the moment. I guess I just had one of those John Q moments.
I was about to say John Q.
You know what I'm saying? Desperate people do desperate things.
How did y'all feel when y'all heard that gavel hit and they gave you that sentence?
When he said 60 years, I was like, man, he got to be talking to somebody else. Never in a million years did I think that they would have given us that much time. I feel like I was going to hell. And my destination was Angola State Penitentiary, where everybody that gets sentenced there is going there to die.
We're in jail at the same time. I just went for my first OBGYN examination, only to discover in handcuffs and shackles with 2 armed guards at my side that I'm pregnant with twins. My prayer while I was there, just please don't let me give birth to my children in prison. And God answered my prayers. I went home, I had my babies, I was with them 10 months. And 10 months later,
so they let you go home
They let me go home on bond because I was pregnant with twins. That was a saving grace. And so I came home after 3.5 years like a vengeance. We all made a commitment to success by any means necessary. Out of 6 boys, all 6 of them have been to college. 2 of them are still finishing up their degrees. 1 is an orthodontist. 1 is a sommelier. 1 works in Congress. 2 are Army veterans. Come on now. That's what God can do for us even when we don't do it for ourselves. 2 years after Rob's release from prison, we are headed to the Oscars. Let me tell you about the Oscars.
Go ahead, testify.
You're going to have to drop one of them pictures from the Oscars in this podcast.
All right, I'm going to drop it right there. When you look back at this, was it worth it? The Dear Future Wifey Podcast has global impact. From Texas,
I have been on this journey of healing and self-discovery, and this podcast has been a vital part of my process.
Guyana,
God's establishing through you a legacy, a display of freedom found in authentic spirituality.
California,
I've learned so much as a single man through your podcast and continue to learn so much as now a married man.
Nigeria,
This is just therapy for me. I've been healed. I've been strengthened in my convictions. I've understood how to do singlehood better.
Amsterdam,
Way that you've shown us how it is possible for a man to be as intentional as you are.
New Jersey,
I appreciate your vulnerability. I appreciate just being able to see that there is life after divorce.
to New York,
I am a single woman, so these episodes really give me hope and courage that God does have a husband for me.
Discover, uncover, and recover love. I'm Lateris R. Whitfield, and this is Season 10 of the Dear Future Wifey Podcast. Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey Podcast. I'm your host, Lateris R. Whitfield. Listen, are you still shacking up with us? If you're still shacking up with us, can we get a commitment? Hit that subscription button and subscribe. Make sure you turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified about upcoming episodes. Listen, we are in Season 10. This has been absolutely amazing. I've been reading the comments, the DMs of how powerful these episodes have been with y'all. Well, today, listen. Oh, we going higher. This episode resonates with me because I love to hear about couples that have met some unlikely circumstances and have overcome. So without further ado, welcome to the Dear Future Wifey Podcast. My homies, Fox and Rob Rich is in the building.
Yes,
How
King
y'all
Lateris, King Lateris.
Yes, I told her, so she asked me, what do I want to go by? I said, call me King Lateris. You know what I'm
Just
saying?
point forward.
From this point forward, from here on out, here unto. Listen, man, can I just tell y'all how much I admire y'all? I love that, y'all are overcomers in every sense of the word. When y'all sitting around, as soon as y'all sat down, y'all kissing each other. Y'all get tired of kissing each other. Y'all been married. How many years have y'all been married?
Good.
We are about to approach 28 years in matrimony and 38 years in union with one another.
Wow.
Yeah.
So y'all dated for 10 years before y'all got married.
Now you
Correct.
know how y'all be acting, King Lateris. I had to point him in the direction of his kingdom. Like, look, bro.
Here it is, come here.
Right.
So, Rob, why you take so long?
Oh man, they say
See, what happened
you
was-
gotta let it stew.
You gotta let it stew.
It takes time to build, to build something great.
Talking about some jambalaya.
Yeah. More like a gumbo. You gotta have a good roux.
Get that roux
Gotta have a good roux.
And so, 10 years. Let me ask you, why does this work? Because as men, we decide who we marry. A woman decides whether to accept our proposal. But why do you feel, hindsight being 2020, being able to look over those years and see this beautiful queen before you, why does this work?
I think that that the universe has a way of putting people in our path when God has, purpose intended for your life. And with that being said, it's just a matter of us identifying, having a discerning ear and a discerning eye when we come upon that person in our lifetime, whether they be friends of ours or ultimately whether they be the person that we choose to love. And the moment that I met Fox, that I saw Fox for the very first time, something happened, something that had never happened before. I've had other conversations with other women. I've met other women. I've had other encounters. But that thing that happened, it was happening that day when I met Fox in 87 now?
Yeah.
How old were you during that time?
I was 18 and fresh home from the military, just home from boot camp and about to get my first duty station orders. I knew I was going to Europe. I was going to go kick it for 2 years, but at the same time, man, God done blessed me enough in my lifetime to say, well, wow, I got somebody that I think might slow you down a little.
At 18?
At 18.
You felt that at 18?
I felt that at 18.
What were you feeling, Fox? How were you at the time?
Well, listen, I was 16.
You were 16?
I was taking a mental health day from school. My girl Wanda and I, we were chilling, right?
Yeah, mental health day.
Mental health day.
I don't think that's what they called it back then.
Hey.
They call it that now, but I don't think they called it that.
Right,
they called that
shooting hooking. Right.
Shooting hooking.
Right.
That's what they called it. It wasn't called a mental health day back then, Fox. It was called shooting hooking. I don't know where they got that from. Shooting hooking. What is shooting hooking anyway? What is shooting hooking?
I have no idea, but it was working for me because if I didn't have to go to school, I wouldn't go. Like, why I gotta sit here all day? We can't just get this over with. But so Rob comes to take us to our half day school, and Wanda's told me this is her man, so I'm like, oh, okay. All right, Wanda, I see you, girl.
Hold on. So you started, run that back. So,
Yes,
Rob,
indeed.
you started off as Wanda's man.
Yes.
That's what I heard later on. I was trying to figure out how I got that role. No, I didn't audition
Women
for
be
it.
calling dibs.
He didn't audition.
He didn't audition or nothing. They done called dibs on you. You had no say so about that.
Right.
And so Wanda had called first shot.
Yeah. But for me, I think the moment that pricked my spirit, or the moment I fell in love, is when he surprised me and called me, and I'm like, wait a minute, dude, what is you calling me for? You was Wanda's man, right? To which he says, get Wanda on the phone. He didn't star 69 to call me back because his other friend had my number. He calls me back. I'm like, what is this? He says, call Wanda on the phone. I was like, okay, so what did he say? 3-way call.
Yep.
And he said, Wanda, why you said we had a thing going? She was like, huh? What? Well, not click. So it was just interesting in that moment for me that he was willing to step up and show me that he was so interested in getting to know me that and I was not going to get to know him knowing that he was involved with someone else.
That's good.
And so for him to show that same respect, to correct and lay out the facts, as Rob always says.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that meant everything to me,
So, for those that don't know y'all's amazing story, tell me, what would you say if there was a movie, let's say if it was called Time.
I was about to say, it is a movie called
Time. It was a movie called Time. What would the log line be? What would the synopsis be about this story about y'all's love?
Ooh.
I think what it actually says on Amazon Prime Video, something like indomitable matriarch Fox Rich or entrepreneur Fox Rich fights to bring her husband home from a lengthy sentence while raising her 6 sons successfully.
A lengthy prison sentence is an understatement. 61 years they gave you. Let's go back on how we got there. So let's talk about this 18-year-old man who just fresh from the military, eyes for Fox and saying, this is a woman that I believe is my purpose partner. This is my wife. And how did y'all get there? What happened? You took a while to actually marry her or propose to her. Let's get there. What happened? How did y'all dating journey go?
Well, like I said, we had a 10-year on again, off again relationship that happened for us over a span of time. And then probably about 1994, I got word that they were having a 1995 Million Man March in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I was living in New Jersey at the time and had been living there for quite some time. I was a card dealer in the casinos. And some of my friends, we used to get together and hang out and, do guy stuff or whatever. And one of the brothers that were among us was a Muslim, my brother Mike. And he said, man, the minister's doing something in D.C., man. We got to go down there. So we caravanned up about 9 cars deep. We drove down to D.C. from Jersey. And once we got there, just the messaging really resonated with me because I've never had a chosen religion. I was born into a Baptist family, but I had never chosen a religion. But I've always valued the truth that exists in all of the religions. But that said, I was like, I'm game. Let's go. We go down there. But one of the things that was a big takeaway for me in that moment was the fact that we had been given orders to go back to our community, clean it up, provide jobs, start businesses so that you could provide jobs, be a father to your children if you got them out there, own the mothers of those children, in the whole 9 yards. And so that being said, I took my orders. I knew the mission going back home. So in that moment, it was like, okay, I got a clean house right now. So by the time I was on my way back to Jersey, driving back up, I think I had started the process of what all had unfolded that day in 1995. And when I came back, I was clear that I wanted to find me a wife, and Fox was the best thing that I had encountered in my lifetime. And that's, after my military travels abroad and coming back and, and all of what, a young man in my age. He got his
stripes, he got his stripes.
I had tested the waters.
He was in them streets. He was in them streets and in them seas,
right?
And in them deserts. Highways and byways.
Right? So when I came back home, it was one of those, again, moments where it's like, okay, is this going to be another own moment for Fox and I? And it was in that moment that I told her, I done dated you enough. I don't need to keep dating you. I'm game to get married if you are. And she's like, well, when? I said, well, I'd marry you tonight if I thought I could. And to which she clapped back and had hooked up an arrangement for us to elope and go to Kissimmee, St. Cloud, Florida.
Yeah, really? Rob was like, my sister and my brother, they eloped. I said, elope? He said, yeah, they went to the Justice of the Peace. He's like, man, we got 3 kids between us. 3 kids over those.
3 kids at this point.
Between us.
Okay.
3 kids. His, ours, and then mine.
Okay.
By the time we married, yes, the streets was dirty. It was dirty out there, King. We was like, you got trash over here, stuff up under the rug. You know how it is when you having company you wasn't expecting.
You just hide it real quick.
Yeah. Okay. And so he was like, man, we need a house, so let's buy a house for our family with wedding money and let's elope. And so
that's smart.
We drove out to a little wedding chapel down in Florida it's Kissimmee, St. Cloud, and married. And the night after we married, we consummated our marriage by bungee jumping together. And in that moment, it was like a victory as we shouted out over the city of Orlando that, we had finally done it. We had defied all the odds, the statistics, the poor choices, and that we had done the one thing that, everybody that is a wealth builder talks about, and that is finding you a partner.
That part. That part. How long did it take y'all to go into business with each other and open up the clothing store?
Oh man, we dreamed all the way down to Florida. We, in between chasing tornadoes that was on the highway and pulling off on side roads. You know what I'm saying?
Consummating again.
Little break again.
And consummating. Just keep on consummating down the highway.
Right.
Just kept on consummating.
Right.
Make sure y'all did it right. Make sure y'all consummated right.
Consummate.
Oh God, no. And so Y'all were married. At what age were y'all at this time?
25. I was 25. Rob was 27.
Yeah, so y'all young. Y'all young.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and when did y'all open up? What business were y'all in? What was your profession during that time? Were you working? What was that before y'all opened up the clothing store?
Fox was a adjunct instructor at
Southern University.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And at the same time, I was in cosmetology school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And so, how well was that going?
How well was or is that going?
Is and was and still is.
Well, see what had happened was. By the time Fox and I got together and realized that we were really going to give it a go, we merged our ideas, and culture was the merging of those ideas. It was a way for her to give back to the community as she was doing through Southern, through teaching, but she was able to give back in a way that classrooms, typical traditional classrooms, really sometimes won't allow. And so with it, we had a thing called Culture Kids, where she was able to develop and, do the things that she wanted to do as they related to, that part of
the children in the community.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was about what they call now social entrepreneurship.
Yes.
We want to do good while making some money at it. And
so y'all doing that way back then.
Way back when.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like Time the documentary that Filmmaker Magazine gave me credit for being one of, if not the first person to actually turn the camera on themselves and start this form of self-filming that we now know as a selfie.
And vlogging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what made you think of that?
Because I wanted to tell my story and I wanted him to see me because, when I first started filming, we filmed over 21 years before Rob came home. We did 21 years in 4 days. And so when I first started filming after Rob got sentenced, I started filming because I couldn't believe we had finally got married. So, the film time, it opens up with saying, here we are, the rich family. Now, what do you think about that? Because I was so thankful that we had finally fixed this mess that we have created and built a foundation that not only we could grow from, but our 3 boys could grow from. And so that was the first part of filming for me, is documenting my family, because I was so proud that I had fixed it. So for those, women that have had children outside of marriage, and maybe you were like me and thought that, that maybe it was over or not, the possibilities didn't lie for union, I would just counter that and say, just when I thought that there was no space for Rob and I to find our way to our love again, we did, and in such a magnificent and profound way. As to marry 10 years later, 3 children between us, immediately pursuing our dreams together. So I just think that within the realm of that energy, there is nothing that we can't do when we do it together.
Yes.
I saw a billboard in Baltimore. That's why I'm so really thankful that you're doing this show. It's so important. Now all we got to do is take you and get you married, huh?
Yeah, I said, I prophesied on myself. I said, I'm going to be married by the end of this year. Okay. I believe it.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm tired of being single. I was married almost 10 years ago. My divorce was final December the 29th of 2015. And I said, it's been 10 years. I've healed. I've gone through therapy. And this is a season for me to get married.
Yes.
I'm ready because I realize exactly what you're talking about. You can only do so much as a single person. Not saying that, if you don't get married, that you don't have a fulfilled life. But I know that my purpose is tethered to the heart of a woman. Yes. That I know that once I get married, that God is going to 10x my life. Yes. And so that's what I believe. And I know that this purpose work that I'm doing, I can only reach so much by myself.
Yes. And probably even just all that you are sending out that is good for us to be having conversations. You can't help but reap this.
Absolutely. And I don't want to be helping everybody else's marriage and I ain't got one. I'm selfish. I'll be like, hold on. God, I see what you done for others. I need you to do that for me. Amen. Amen again. And so let's talk about Time is a powerful documentary where you document, you said 21 years?
21 years.
In 2 days?
4
days, 21 years in 4 days. First of all, that you had the mindset to even do that before that was even a thing. And let's find out, how did you end up incarcerated?
Back in
both y'all end up incarcerated. So let's see how do we end up there?
Went to the prison.
I know, right? Yeah. But it was just in pursuit of our dreams of culture. The investor that we thought we had secured pulled out on us. And that, along with some other moments that was happening in our life, we had our youngest son had taken ill with something that doctors could not diagnose in the moment. And I guess I just had one of those John Q moments.
I was about to say, John Q.
You know what I'm saying? You get into a moment of desperation, and when desperate people do desperate things. And when that pressure came about, I just thought that maybe we could regain financial solvency this way. And it didn't work out.
And what did y'all do exactly to try to regain financial solvency?
Yeah, we robbed the bank.
You robbed the bank.
We robbed the bank.
And robbed the bank. And how much did y'all get away with?
I think it's about $5,163 and maybe some change. And Fox swears up and down that the change had to be ours because
we had to have some money before we went in that bank, King Lateris. We ain't just going in and didn't have a penny in our pocket.
Right,
it couldn't have all been the banks.
At least $2.33.
Not even the dollars, but definitely the change, man. Come on. The brother did not go in there and get change. And truth be told, you have to make light of, of the harm, especially when you cause harm to yourself.
That's right.
Truth be told, that when you are black in America, then you absolutely know that you cannot break the law. Never did we imagine having been what we thought was upstanding citizens
helping
that
the community.
When we stepped over the line, that the system would again add such sanctions on us that it was criminal within its own nature. Sanctions that we they were state sanctioned. What do you call them, baby?
Charges?
No. Violence, state-sanctioned violence. To give my family 60 years for $5,000 to take my husband's life in perpetuity. King Lateris, they wanted to give me 40 years for the role I played of even dropping him off outside of the bank, not at the bank.
40 years.
40 years. That's what they offered me as a plea deal, 40 years. While I was pregnant with twins and had 3 children. Rob came home on bond. We got pregnant again, of course.
Yeah, because y'all like to consummate them.
Consummate.
Y'all just like consummate. As soon as y'all see each other, y'all consummate. Hold hands, consummate.
That reminds me of one time we were in the prison in visitation. In the prison, you don't have intimate contact with your loved ones here in Louisiana. And so we're sitting at the table and Rob is caressing my forearm, right? And, we're just staring in each other's eyes, thinking of all the things that could be one day. Because we wish we could be consummating.
Yeah.
The security officer walks over. She's a big burly lady. She says, "Excuse me, I'm going to need you to stop rubbing her arm like that." Rubbing her arm. I was like, "Ooh," I said, "It got good to you, didn't it, girl? You just all that loving poured up in these penitentiary walls. It just took over. They had to perform the exorcist right there in the prison. Stop all that love up in here."
Rubbing her forearm.
Rubbing my forearm. My forearm. So the level of inhumanity that we expose ourselves to when we enter these prison systems, and even more so, it's to be expected because when you understand the 13th Amendment, you understand that the only way that slavery still exists in America is when you in the commission of a crime, when you're convicted of a felony. So when we convict ourselves of felonies by our own actions, we check ourselves back into slavery. And when I tell you, it is every bit of enslavement that our ancestors experienced before. Every bit of the lack of humanity, the way that they juice your family for every dollar that they have, making you pay for phone calls when the whole world talking free, making you pay for emails when the entire world is emailing for free. I mean, they drain every drop of blood out of the poorest among us in these slave systems. So I just say that yes, we laugh about it, King, but at the end of the day, black people breaking the law in America, it is no laughing matter.
I need y'all to vote for Fox for president of the United States.
No, you saw what they did to the last black president and the one that tried to be the president. No, thank you. No, absolutely not.
This is her nomination. This is when I said, good Lord. So I want to go back. How did y'all feel when y'all heard that gavel hit and they gave you that sentence?
I know for me, I I was appalled. I was like, wow, really? And I was like, man, maybe he got the paperwork messed up or something. Something had to be wrong. Never in a million years. I thought maybe 20 years because they showed like they was really upset with us. I really couldn't figure out why they were so upset with us.
You thought 20 years.
Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe 20 years because, like I said, they were upset. But I had watched at least 24.
Yeah.
I watched 24 other people, black and white, come through that same system for similar charges, meaning the same charge, but their own set of circumstances, and some far more grueling than our circumstances, and walked away with a fraction of the time. One dude got 5 years and he got sent to boot camp. So he do 6 months in boot camp and then the sentence is over with. The most time that I saw them give someone was 12 years. And that was because he was a multiple offender. Right, that part. And so never in a million years did I think that they would have given us that much time. So when he said 60 years, I was like, man, he got to be talking to somebody else.
Do you have an attorney sitting there representing y'all?
Oh, yeah. Yes,
a court-appointed attorney that y'all have?
A paid attorney. Yeah, a paid attorney. Mm-hmm. But to his credit, he was brand new. He had just finished law school. Just finished law school. He was a friend of ours as well. When you get yourself entangled into these systems, you don't have the kind of money to put up the level of defense that the state has. The state has all the state's money in order to try you.
Exactly.
So, if you ain't got OJ money, you ain't got Diddy money, you ain't got somebody money, you know.
And even Diddy money, they said wasn't no good.
Yeah. Right, not in this day and time.
No, not in this day and time.
New day and order.
61 years.
Yeah, man. So, you know, like I said, just in that, and then when I realized that he was in fact sentencing me to 60 years, it was about the same time that he told my nephew that he was sentencing him to 45 years.
He didn't even have a weapon, King Latiris.
Well, this don't even make sense. Like people are hearing this. This is y'all's real life story. Mm-hmm. This is not some Hollywood movie. Mm-mm. This is y'all's real life story.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, what were you think? How do you feel when you know that the country failed you? When you feel like the state of Louisiana failed you?
That's right.
Like when you look at that, like, because even when I'm hearing that right now, I always think that, oh yeah, like you said, it can't be me. Mm-hmm. After about 24 hours, they're gonna work this out because ain't nobody ain't nobody gonna allow this to. I mean, nobody's gonna allow.
Somebody's gonna step up.
Somebody's gonna say, all right, yeah, man, you're tripping. It's no way. It's no way that would be true.
Yes,
when I tell you that we were all numb standing there at the table, I'm talking about my lawyer was so numb that when a sentence hands down, first and foremost, when you get sentenced in a trial, a lawyer, your representation is supposed to say, Your Honor, I object.
Yes.
And you make the objection. You know that he's going to overturn it. You know what I'm saying?
At least try.
But you're supposed to at least do that in order to, to make sure that I can reserve this for future on the record. Man, he was so baffled. He was sitting there. He was looking like he was about to go do them 60 years.
God, dog.
It wasn't until I got back to the parish jail that it really started to set in on me as far as like what happened. And then from there, it probably was the next phase of it was when I started going through the processing system of, that dehumanizing portion of what it is when you're going backwards into slavery. So it's the same thing when you come over here and they riding you on a boat for days on end. You don't really have a clue as to what's going on. Instead of riding on a boat, I was riding on a bus from one jail hitting in some country town into another town, at one depot station to another one, picking up slaves throughout the night. I'm talking about the same shackles and chains they put on people way back then, to the moment that we got all the way to Hunts down in Baton Rouge, but we had been going south. I feel like I was going to hell. I'm talking about going south, and my destination was Angola State Penitentiary, where everybody that gets sentenced there is going there to die.
Where everybody who gets sentenced there goes there to die.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And so where did you end up? You ended up where they, because you served time, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. And so I think for me, it was probably when you were asking about how did we feel in the sentencing moment. For me, it was a matter of Rob. we're in jail at the same time.
Right.
And so I don't know what has happened to him, but I do know I just went to the hospital for my first OBGYN examination, only to discover in handcuffs and shackles with 2 armed guards at my side that I'm pregnant with twins. And so I get back to the prison, and maybe a couple of days later, Rob goes to be sentenced. And so I'm standing outside the rec yard. They let the women out when the men go in. Rob would wrap his mattress up, borrow it, the other guy's dorm room down the hallway, stand up on the mattress in the window to talk to me through this little fenced-in window at the prison. And so I'm like, what happened? What happened at sentencing? And he says, man, you don't know? You didn't hear? I'm like, no. He says, they sentenced me to 60 years. And so I'm standing there pregnant, flushed, about to pass out. It was only God that held me. And held me in that moment, because I said, this is one of the most important moments that you will encounter. And what you say and do here is going to matter. And God would have me say to this man that is mine, it's going to be all right. It'll make the movie more better. We'll walk it together, but I promise I won't let go of your hand. And so he went on, after they shipped Rob to Angola, they reduced my bond from $500,000 to $5,000 so that my mother could bond me out so that I could come home and have my children. Because my prayer while I was there was, Lord, I'll do whatever I got to do. I know I'm facing 297 years. I know they just sentenced my husband to 60 years. I'll do whatever I have to do. Just please don't let me give birth to my children in prison.
Yeah.
Don't let these boys that I know I'm carrying at the time, don't let me bring them into this life in enslavement. And God answered my prayers. I went home. I had my babies. I was with them 10 months. And 10 months later, what they do? We ready for you. You've been home long enough.
Hold on. I didn't see that coming. So he let you go home
They let me go home on bond because I was pregnant with twins. That was a saving grace. They had already said they knew I was pregnant. They had no intentions of decreasing my bond. It was but God that I go in there, and they discovered that I'm having twins. I had been begging the people for food. My mama had been calling. She had to call all the way up to my state U.S. Senator's office to get them to make sure they were giving me adequate food like the doctor had ordered. And so for me, if it would not have been for the twins, I would have been in prison having a baby. And I certainly would have ended up with more time than I was able to negotiate through a plea bargain once I had a paid attorney and was out on the outside.
So when they got you and you went back, did you go back, and how much time did you serve when you went back?
I had 2 7-year sentences and 1 5-year sentence run together. So I had to serve 3.5 years in prison before I was able to come back home to my family. And so I came home after 3.5 years like a vengeance. And the vengeance was freedom. In Time the Movie, I think I said best, King Lateris, is that success is the best revenge.
I'm trying to tell you.
If we want to make people pay for how they treat the most beautiful people that God has created, then success is the best revenge. How do we get them back? We make them pay by paving the way for ourselves. And so myself, my husband, our 6 sons, we all made a commitment to success by any means necessary, because it would be the ultimate revenge to the system that says children of incarcerated parents are 7 times more likely to end up in prison themselves, 9 times more likely to drop out of high school. And we say out of 6 boys, all 6 of them have been to college. 2 of them are still finishing up their degrees. 1 is an orthodontist. 1 is a sommelier. 1 works in Congress. Come on, 2 are Army veterans. Come on now. That's what God can do for us, even when we don't do it for ourselves initially.
Yeah, I can take up an offering right now for the Church of Fox, because she just preached this sermon. And when I tell you, that's the type of love I'm looking at sitting on this yellow couch. That love that perseveres. What I love about that is that you came back with vengeance. You said, oh, I'm going to get them. I know you had me locked up, but I'm coming back.
Yeah.
But how did you stay? The Bible says, do not grow weary in your well-doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. With 60 years hanging over your husband's head, how did you not grow weary?
Oh, I don't think that I didn't grow weary, but to give up was not an option.
You said you grew weary, but you just wasn't going to faint.
No, not by far. I didn't come from a people that fainted. One of the most memorable experiences for me when I was going through this process was when I did have to go to the hospital for my first prenatal appointment while I was incarcerated. And I looked at the faces of the people around the community hospital that they took me to. And you know how we do when we see somebody enslaved? Yeah. We try to look and act like we're not looking. Yeah. And then you wondering all the time, I wonder what they did.
Yep.
Shouldn't have been doing nothing. That's their problem. That's what they get. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, I literally felt like a slave on an auction block. And the Spirit spoke to me and said, your people went through this experience to no fault of their own. And certainly if you have chosen this experience with your own hands, with your own heart, then you better hold your head up and you better look straight ahead, hold your chin up and push all the way through this and trust that if they went through that and overcame it, certainly you better overcome this because you did it to yourself. You did this to your family. All that our ancestors went through for us to have the opportunity to be free and of our own volition, we submitted ourselves back to slavery. That was a hard pill to swallow. And so I felt like I owed it to my ancestors that I had let down. I owed it to my family members that I had appalled it. I owed it to my community, the folks in my church that helped raise me. I owed it to those people to pick myself up, clean myself up, ask God for forgiveness for my transgression, and carry on and do more good than I had done harm. Yeah.
Jesus. When I say I need every black person on the face of this earth to watch this episode, because the level of accountability that you're operating in, because when I hear this, I keep hearing the injustice, but then there's also a great deal of accountability that you're saying, yeah, I put myself here, and the two can coexist where, yes, there's accountability, but there's a great deal of injustice with this. While you were incarcerated, Rob, what kind of thoughts were you having? How often did she visit you? What were you feeling like as a man, knowing that this queen is raising your seed outside of these prison walls? How did you feel?
He felt tall and nice and like the best looking, best dressed man in Texas.
That's an inside joke, y'all. The inside
joke. Yes, indeed. Man, it was a heck of a feeling, like you said, after being a military vet myself.
Serving our country.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
No, we're going to sit on this for a little bit.
Right.
Serving our country. Right. The same country you served failed you.
And that's what that was like. You walk into a situation and it's like, damn, how did we miscarry? Was justice miscarried to this degree? And when I got there, there was a brother named Sincere was his name. And Sincere was a brother he was much older than me, maybe about 15, 20 years older than me, had been in Angola for quite some time. And he pulled out a civics book. And when he pulled out the civics book, he took me directly to the 13th Amendment. And he said, this is how. He said, they got a whole organization here made up of nothing but veterans. He said, you can go join them if you want, or you can join me tonight in the law library, because that's where I'm going to be. And, it was just kind of one of those moments. And I followed him to the law library. And went down there, and he kind of really helped give me a shift. And the shift that he gave me was much similar to what Fox was describing, when you realize that you come from something that has already overcome something like this before. And so it was in that moment that I knew that what I was up against didn't really have nothing to do with me. It didn't have nothing to do with the judge. It didn't have nothing to do with the district attorney. It didn't have nothing to do with the court actors or nobody else in this situation. This is a calling from God to say that I'm going to send you through something, but it's going to be for something greater.
You felt that in that moment?
I felt that in that moment.
You were able to shift your perspective in that moment and have an optimistic mindset that it was God trusting you, allowing you through this season.
That's right. I forgave the judge. I forgave the district attorney. I forgave the people that had lied, that had cheated.
Rob, hold on. I know that didn't take place that fast.
That was when they say that sometimes that insanity happens, but the coming back to oneself can be something that can happen in an instant. Rehabilitation happens from people at different degrees. I've watched people that were rehabilitated like myself the minute I got in the backseat of the police car. I knew then if you let me go, I would never do this shit again. Nothing remote or nothing near it again. But I also knew that I had a responsibility to go, and sanctions were in order. I didn't know what they would be, but I was prepared. I pled guilty to the charges originally. So I went in there knowing that I had wronged and that I was gonna stop the hemorrhaging, you know. But in that moment, like I said, inside of prison, that's where then my time became purpose driven. And so I was intentional about how I was going to wake up every day. How would I parent under these circumstances? How would I be a husband under these circumstances? How would I continue to be all of what I was before I ever got here? Bricks, barbed wire fences, and those things that separated me. But I think my son probably says it best. He said, but it did not define reach. Yeah. You were able to reach us from that many miles away, from that many barbed wire fences, brick walls, and the whole 9 yards. Your fatherhood, your fathering was felt even out here. So it was, like I said, just really amazing moment. Probably one of the defining moments in the troubled time that Fox was having. Fox and I were having during incarceration. Just so happens I was in a marriage and family counseling class. I studied theology while I was locked up. They were offering a 4-year degree. And so I signed up for the class and got selected and became a student. And in it, just in one of our classes that they were doing on marriage and family counseling, just kind of gave me some tools to use that I was able to implement even then in the moment that Fox and I were experiencing our relationship dramas. And at the same time, our children were feeling the impact because it was like, hold up, this don't feel right. You know, something's going on here, you know, but in that moment, like I said, it just gave me all of the tools that I needed. And all throughout my 21-year journey, the tools were always provided for me. They were always there. I just had to, you know, again, have a discerning ear and a discerning eye to know that those tools were laid there for me. And I knew that these were going to be my way back.
And one of those tools is probably just to share with your audience because it is so profound. One of those tools was Rob reminded me that we needed to treat our relationship like a bank account, that we needed to make sure we made more deposits than withdrawals, because when you are together for almost 4 decades, you're going to make some withdrawals. It's understood. You know, we're human, and to err is human, but to forgive is divine. And so, you know, forgiving is making sure you got enough cushion up in there, you know, to move around. When I have to go take that deposit out, you know, like, okay, do I have a little cushion? So I think that is, you know, just remembering that when you're in a relationship with someone, that you just want to make more deposits in them than you do the withdrawals. And
Rob, I think that analogy of a bank account should have been the first thing you stayed away from when you make the analogy about bank accounts.
No, he didn't.
It was out there. You put your chin out your head.
That should be. You should stay way away from that analogy. You said withdrawals. No, that wasn't the thing you should have been using as an analogy. When you
All right, King, you got that one. I'm gonna let you have that one. I'm gonna let you have that one.
What bank only got $5,000?
Okay.
What y'all gonna rob, a piggy bank?
Right.
$5,000 the whole bank?
They hadn't finished putting all the money out yet.
Oh, okay. I was like, good Lord. I said, you rob a whole bank, get $5,000. See, I used to be a teller at Bank One, so I was like, you would have, okay. Anyway, yeah, that's just, yeah. So my question is this, 21 years, were you prepared to serve that whole time, or were you like, I know I can count on God, he's going to get me out before I have to serve these 60 years?
I honestly thought that I would have figured out a way out of prison long before the time that it took me. There were just, you know, some avenues that were available to me that I thought would have opened up, and they didn't. But to be honest with you, I think we just really approached this pretty much how people say that you would eat an elephant. Yeah. You know, a little bite at a time. Yeah. For us, it was a year at a time. We would go in every year thinking that this would be the year. that we get out because, there's something always pending. So whether or not it was me on direct appeal, whether it was me on Louisiana Supreme Court appeal, whether it was me coming back on post-conviction, coming back on my second post-conviction, coming back on the third post-conviction. But there was always a carrot. There was always something that was dingling because we knew that if they would just give us the fundamental fairness that we're asking for, this could be right. This wrong could be righted.
The fundamental fairness.
That's it. That's all we was asking for. I didn't need a favor. I just needed fundamental fairness.
We throw these numbers around like we're talking about 21 years from a birth. That means from me coming into this earth, I become an adult legal by the United States at 21. That's your whole sentence. Kids that y'all had, your youngest kid was born. The twins were born while I'm at the earlier stint of prison, and now they're 21 years old when he gets out.
Right.
That just sounds crazy to me.
They were 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were 19.
And so how did you finally get out? What happened?
Crazy enough, our son Freedom, he's one of the twins. And crazy thing, I got to give you the backstory on this.
Come on, let's talk.
When it comes to Freedom has always been, you have with parents, you have it may not be announced publicly, but you always have like a favorite child out of the ones that you got.
Yeah.
Well, among the twins, there was a favorite between me and Fox. Justice was Fox's favorite twin, and Freedom was always my favorite twin. And I used to always say to Freedom that when he was a little bitty baby, he was like 10 months old when Fox first brought him to see me the first time in prison.
2 weeks.
2 weeks old. That's right. 2 weeks old.
As soon as they could. Little babies hanging all out of the penitentiary. But you got to go see your daddy.
Right. 2 weeks.
It may have been a month. You got to go see your daddy, right? He got to touch you.
But maybe 60 to 90 days old the kids were, the twins were at that time. But I remember then, even when he used to come, I said, boy, this is my daddy's Freedom. I said, boy, you're going to get your daddy out of prison one day, huh?
You said that to him?
I said,
Yes.
I used to say it over and over and over again to him. And crazy enough, fast forward some 18 years later, 17 years later, he decides that he's going to go to you have a kid that grows up and then they have sports or athletic potential, and you kind of know, boy, this boy here going to NFL or he's going to the NBA or whatever. This kid here of ours, I knew he was going to the White House. He has been a politician ever since he came into this world.
Just natural leader.
I'm talking about just a natural servant when he first came into this life. And I'm like, man, he's really going to do some amazing stuff. I'm talking about he's been president of all kind of stuff before he was 5 years old. But at any rate, one night he was out and they were having a guest speaker that was speaking at Loyola University, and he was accompanied by the governor. It was a guy by the name of Frank Luntz. Some of your viewers may actually even know who Frank Luntz is, but he's a pollster where he does all these amazing think tanks where he pulls people together. But crazy enough, he was there speaking as the guest speaker that night at Loyola, and Freedom got up and asked him a question, to which after the question was answered, Freedom got ready to leave. And as he was walking out, he said, "Hey, kid," in the middle of his speech, "don't go nowhere." He said, I'm going to change your life. To which my son went outside and called his mom because he was on mission from her as well. So she was like, "Boy, if you
told him to go there?"
He was going to the
he was going to go change the tires because Fox had a used car dealership.
Because we got to all do this together, right? He calls me and says, I was on my way and the person is late with, making the repair on the car, and he was telling me what happened at the speaking engagement. I was like, boy, if you don't get yourself back in that room, forget that car tonight.
He's ain't gonna change your life.
Right? But they got together and they met. And once Frank realized that Freedom was 17 years old, he asked whether or not he had a guardian or a parent that could join him. To which Fox showed up with him as well. And Frank took a liking to him. And in that moment, he confessed and said that, "Freedom, you are the most impressive person that I've seen in the last 25 years. How can I help you?"
How can I help you?
And crazy enough, his mom and him had already had that conversation the night before.
This man want to meet with you.
Right.
Come here. While I'm cutting his hair, because you ain't got no
woman.
Talk to me, man.
Listen, while I'm cutting his hair, let me edge you up before you go. What you wearing? Okay,
Right.
no, that tie.
Fox,
That tie. I say, if this man wants to meet with you, it's because he sees in you what we already know to be true. So you need to be prepared with what you want when he asks you.
So he went in there with his wish list, and his wish list was one, that he wanted his daddy home. But he said, I don't want him home necessarily for me as much as I want him home for my younger brother, because I think that he deserves the opportunity to grow up with his father in the house. He says, secondly, there's a piece of legislation that we've been working on for other families back at the prison, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to get that piece of legislation passed so that it would be able to help out the other family members. And he said, lastly, I need money for school. So if there's some scholarships or anything like that that's out there and available, I would, be, appreciative if you would take me into consideration for it. And he says, well, Freedom, the governor was just in the room. Why didn't you say something while we was there? And, to which he was like,
I looked at him, man. I say, now, come on, what the child was going to say in front of, hey, my daddy locked up, you going to help me? Help me, I say, he says, you're right. Yes.
But he ends the conversation by saying to them in that moment, he says, I never asked these people for anything. He says, but I'm willing to talk to the governor about your father and about your family. He says, because this is, has really been a moving moment for me. Now, mind you, this guy's a white dude, Republican. As a matter of fact, he was one of the major scribes in the creation of Contract with America. That kind of spurred a lot of what we now know as mass incarceration many, many years prior to.
Really?
Yes, really? Indeed. So
that's how God moves.
What?
Yes. That's how God moves.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was responsible for much of the language that ultimately got that as to what we now know as our Contract with America. But that being said, true to his word, he went back and he spoke to our governor. And after having, he called Fox on her way to Angola. This was on another trip. And she's on her way to Angola. The phone rings and she calls and it's him on the phone. He says, I just spoke to your governor for about an hour. I think,
about your family.
About your family. And he says that he's given me his word that if your husband can make it past his pardon board, that he'll sign his pardon. He'll sign for his release.
And how far was that?
A year. That was a
year prior to
June 9th of 2017.
And I went on the hearing in May.
May Mother's Day 2018.
Yeah. So I knew a year ahead of time before going on the board that I had the support of the governor in this matter, and like I said, we went through the process and all of that. So I made the pardon board on the May 14th, and then September 13th, I was granted parole. They granted me immediate parole eligibility. I was paroled out a week later on September the 20th. So September the 20th, 2018, I walked out of Angola State Penitentiary a free man.
See, as beautiful as that sound, that's whack to me. Mm-hmm. It's like you still gotta wait a whole nother year. It's like, and then not only are you're released on parole, it's like you still gotta report. It's like that stuff is like
going from slavery to sharecropper.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm listening to this. I'm like, that just the whole time. I'm like, that sounds nice, but that still is terrible.
It wasn't justice.
Yeah. So let me go back to this question: what made y'all name y'all's twins Justice and Freedom?
When you are in handcuffs and shackles with 2 armed guards on your side there, and you are facing 297 years in prison, you better name them babies something that's got some meaning and
hope, and liberty.
Liberty.
You speak those things that are not.
Yeah, they were.
So for us, when we were thinking about names for these babies in this moment, my sister had sent me the name Justice from Poetic Justice, and Rob says, I would think Just Us, because it's just us to get us out of this situation. And we had a friend in high school whose name was Freedom. And he says, baby, you remember Freedom? I say, oh, Black Freedom? Because he was a, ebony bone brother, so everybody knew him more Black Freedom, but beautiful, but he was kissed by the sun, brother. And I was like, yeah. He was like, what do you think about the name Freedom? And I was like, wow,
That's
freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And so which one's going to come first? Like, which one do you name like first?
Mm-hmm.
Which, so it's like, you got to have freedom and then you get your justice. And I was like, you know what? Okay. So whichever baby comes first, that's going to be freedom. The baby that comes second, that's going to be justice.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, make you shout right now. Won't I tell you, boy?
It is so many miracles. Our book, the literary companion to the Amazon Oscar-nominated documentary Time, our literary companion is called Time, the untold story of a love that held us together when incarceration kept us apart. For those of your followers that are really interested in delving deeper into the miracles, just that God will bring you as a couple, the favor that God shows couples. Our whole system in America, our tax system is set up for couples, for two people that are married. And so, anybody that is out there that is single, you paying double for everything when it comes to your living.
Yep.
And so even if you can't, until you can find your future husband or wifey, I would say you better find you a good roommate, and collaborate and partner, until that soulmate comes along for you.
That's
but
right.
Just thinking in the mindset of collaboration, we find so many people think that relationships are about love. They're not just about love. It is about partnership.
Yeah.
Finding somebody that you can build with, work with, dream with, fall with, cry with, heal with.
That's right.
When you got out of prison, some people hug, kiss the babies. Some people get in the back seat of vehicles and consummate. Which one were y'all? What did y'all end up doing?
Consummate.
Now,
Consummate.
why couldn't y'all wait? Why couldn't y'all wait till y'all got to the house?
We had waited 21 years and 4 days to be able to touch each other like human beings. All jokes aside, King, think about this. My debt to society was that I was removed. Where does this sadistic entity come from about me not being able to receive any human treatment while I'm incarcerated?
Yep. Yep.
So actually, again, it is another act of violence. To be human means to know other human beings. How can we know another human being if we don't touch? The touch is our humanity. And so it wasn't about waiting until the most appropriate manner. Immediately when God gave me my man, I needed to touch him and have him touch me. So it wasn't about who else was around or what they thought or any of that for me. It was about me making sure that I could put back together what God had put together.
If what God has joined together, let no man put asunder was a person, that's y'all right there. It's y'all right now. Good Lord. She said, I don't care who was around.
Right.
She said, I don't care who was around.
Because what we needed to do in that moment was so much bigger than anything else.
It was spiritual.
We needed to be together.
It was spiritual.
Yeah.
And so how did y'all start rebuilding and continue to build? Because now you were away for 21 years. You got out. How old were you?
I was 48 years old when I got out. And it was a process. When I left, my 5-year-old son, he had been ordained as man of the house. So when I got home, he was now grown. He was 5 when I left. All of my kids were basically grown, with the exception of the last one. But he was so far gone, in terms of age or whatever. It was as if though he was, he was semi-grown already, and but it was a process, going back in. You got to figure that a person like me, I had gone from being in an environment where you have over 6,000 men that make up the prison. There's about 2,500 of them that live just on the wing that I live on. There's 500 of us in a pod together. There's 100 of us in a birthing space, a living space together, where we actually share bed space with one another.
100?
Yes. And inside,
so hold on, y'all in rooms like that? It's 100 y'all in y'all's?
We're in warehouses like that, yes.
Ain't no rooms.
Ain't no rooms. They warehouses. They sit up off the ground, tin type stuff that's cheap material that they're made out of, with no air conditioning, and 2 fans in there among 100 dudes, 2 telephones among 100 dudes, 1 microwave among 100 dudes, 1 TV among 100 dudes, 6 urinals, 4 toilets, 3 showers, and 4 sinks. 2 of them most of the time don't work. So imagine the confusion that's happening in a setting like that. The level of violence, the level of chaos that you live when you live in quarters like that. It takes some getting used to when you are now pushed back into society and told to figure it out. By the time I went to prison 2 years on the other side of Windows 95. By the time I had come home, Facebook was not Facebook, but MySpace was a thing and no longer a thing by the time I had come home. People were unable to operate without a cell phone. Their whole lives were connected to this phone. Everything was automated. It was digital. It was like coming back into a space when you were a slave and you didn't speak the language, because reading was against the law. Inside a prison, technology is against the law.
Yep.
So you come home and you're illiterate. You're computer illiterate, however that part works. But you come back into a space when everybody else is communicating another kind of way, and you're inept. You're unable to communicate on the same level and at the same frequency. So imagine how slow it takes to get a job. Imagine how slow it takes to get services and all of the things that you need in order to, jumpstart your life back again. So it's all of those challenges that you're trying to overcome. Being in a crowded space, my wife was hopeful that she would have intimate time with me and close time with me where we would snuggle all up under each other and be all up under each other. But I've been up under people for the last 21 years of my life. The last thing I wanted to do was be in that close of proximity with someone else. And so things that should have been seen as like intimate showers and those kind of things together. I've been showering with 100 dudes for the last 21 years, man. Yep. I long for the day that I could be in a shower by myself and close the door. I could even lock that joint if I wanted to. You know what I'm saying? And just be in there with myself, until I got wrinkled and gray, all the things, But that was a challenge. Because now it's like, damn, I didn't necessarily work to get you home for you to now be distant from me. And then how does that make me feel as a woman? And I had to understand it, but at the same time, she also had to understand what I had been through.
How long did it take to navigate that space where you finally found your footing, that life could be a little bit more normal as a married man? How long was that? I
think COVID forced it. Because 2 years after I got out, maybe a year and a half later, we were isolated in homes again. I was back in a cell. But I looked around, I said, what a cell here ain't quite as bad. I love my cellmate. He said COVID forced it. But it was just really in those moments that we really got a chance to really tap in. And really dig deep into all of what that experience was like for her as a single parent mother. Raising 6 black boys in a city, in a state, like the city and state that we grew up in. And so at the same time, she was also able to see what it was like on the other side, because I never called home complaining about the violence in the prison. Never called home complaining about what I was experiencing in the prison. I was just always concerned with how y'all doing. And so with it, those things never were made known to her. And so in those moments, we were able to talk about those kind of things and how they impact us. And, it was just, again, like I said, just every day we gave each other. Because the one thing I think she asked when I came home, she was like, what is it that you're most hopeful that I'll give to you when you come home? And I said, space and understanding. Space and understanding. That's the only requirement I got. Give me enough space to figure it out, and give me enough understanding to give me a pass when I get it wrong.
That's good. How did you hear that? Did you hear it as rejection?
Oh, no. I think it took time to work through that, because the thing that I asked him for was to hold me. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not worried about how many of these bills we figure out that's going to be yours, or, if you're going to do the dishes or change the linen, or, all of those things. None of that mattered to me. I just wanted you to hold me, because I've been out here in this world all by myself for so long, and I've been so vulnerable to all of the elements, all of the attacks, and just trying to hold it together, not just for myself, but while I am literally holding the whole state of Louisiana on my shoulders, along with our 6 sons. And so for me, I just wanted somebody to wrap me up in their arms, hold me, and let me know it was going to be all right, that I'm protected and I'm shielded, I'm supported. And so, we work through those struggles. And when he don't hold me enough, I throw a temper tantrum, I throw a whole fit. Mm-hmm. I will cut up.
Yeah, then I
can't see that, Fox. I don't see you being a person that would cut up.
Yeah, then I lock her in. I lay her head down on my shoulder. I just rub on her head. I kiss her. And she's like, stop.
She's like, I cut up.
Yeah, I cuts up, mildly, because I have to also remember in my cutting up as a Black woman, I keep saying I'm going to write this book about hollering, stop all that yelling. Because, oh my God, we are addicted to yelling. We have been so not heard our entire existence that all of us, so many of us, yell because we think it's going to help us be heard more. And it doesn't. We yell in our houses, at our children, at the young lady behind McDonald's when she don't get our French fries right. We yell. And so with him, it made me have to rethink, because I'm fussing at the boys. This is my normal course of action. I'm going to get you straight. I'm going to elevate my tone and show you who's boss. And, Rob was like, oh no, we're not going to do that. I just left one of the most violent places on the planet Earth. And my home will not have violence, even verbal violence. And I was like, oh, okay.
You weren't playing them games, was you, Rob? You weren't playing that?
No, not that. No, we was going to live in peace. Your home is your sanctuary. Your marriage, your family is your sanctuary. You have all the noise and the confusion and all that other stuff happens outside your doors. When you walk in here, take your shoes off, wash your hands, let's start over. Let's reason together up in here.
How did you protect your mind? Because you've seen, and I know you've seen some stuff. You're in one of the worst prisons in America.
In the world. And you saw some things. Mm-hmm. How did you manage that? Especially you come home, now you're in this normal life, you got this loving wife, you have these kids. Were you struggling with PTSD, and were you sitting, waking up in fits of, how was that with trying to assimilate back into regular society?
Mm-hmm. Well, the first part was probably when that I recognized it. We were interviewing with CBS Morning News, and Jerika Duncan was interviewing us that morning, and I was all excited because I had been watching her through the TV, for like the last 20 years. I knew her career and everything, how it rose and everything, and I was like, wow, Jerika Duncan interviewing us in the morning. We got all excited, got through the interview and all of that, and we sitting back and we relish in the moment, and then all of a sudden, it's like my heart started beating fast, and I started like sweating and feeling funny. I was like, damn, what's wrong with me? And I said, babe, does my heart feel like it's beating fast? She was like, yeah.
And the Black mama and me, he's like, I think I need to go to the hospital. I was like, you better die and prove it first.
You better die and prove it first. Boy, that's something a Black person say. You better die and prove it first.
Let me see.
All right, yeah, you done died. Let's go to the hospital.
Okay. But I started having chills, man. And then all of a sudden, she looked, and, I calmed down, and, it kind of came back. But then over a series of those moments, that kind of came, at different moments. And then I went and got diagnosed, and turns out I had PTSD. And most people kind of associate PTSD like when you go off the war and, loud booms and all of that kind of stuff that goes off. But very few people want to attribute it or give it to a place like prison, because you supposed to just go there and endure all that. And, that was your punishment. You were supposed to put up with it, and you were supposed to like it, and you were supposed to, but it's just not the truth. You come home and, yes, you are traumatized in a lot of different ways. I can can just see, like, in my normal way, how much prison is so much a part of who I am. I can spot people out of nowhere and call, like, who that person is and know who they are. I can hear footsteps come up behind me. It took me a while to like, uncondition myself that way. To where you could tell certain patterns of feet on the ground that I could tell who was walking up behind me.
You could.
Yes.
You'd be at home and be like, oh, that's...
Yes.
Yeah. I'm talking about through doors, in the whole 9 yards, but you become that keen when you're living in an environment that violent. You better not slip. You better not miss nothing.
People out of their minds, their own drugs. It's all manner of things going on inside of our prisons.
But like I said, coming home, in that environment, I realized that I did in fact have PTSD. So I started meditating. At Fox's suggestion, she was like, "Babe, you got to breathe. You got to meditate more. You always breathe, but your breath is always short." I'm like, "Man, I've been breathing like this all my life. What you talking about?
I know how to breathe.
Everybody don't breathe the same."
You want me to breathe like you? I'm fine.
But yeah, a lot of the men that have experienced long suffering, there's no way possible that you come home and you're not damaged in some way, shape.
And that's what I saw. I said it would have to be with the stuff that you've seen. It's impossible because you can't see all that stuff, then come to a normal environment and your brain don't think like that.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? It's like
sensitivity to light. Because you're in a space where you have poor lighting. At nighttime, you sleep with a light on all the time.
A light. Yep.
So you have that, and then you come into a space where you sleep in darkness. That's like sleep deprivation. So I've been like sleep deprived for the last 21 years. I don't sleep no more than maybe 2 or 3 hours in the night. My nephew, I don't even know if he get that much sleep. I'm talking about he just rambles and moves around, and it made me realize how much sleep I don't get at night. Because I'd be like, wow, I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, if I just went to bed even at 10, 11, or 12, I wake up at 2 in the morning, almost like clockwork. But the clockwork is based upon when the guard used to come around and hit the clock and make certain noises or whatever at a certain time. But you have all of these cues that happen. It's kind of like, training a dog after, you ring the bell or you do certain claps or whatever, and there's a certain response that comes from it. And but yeah, all of those things you really have to, one, be mindful that they're there, and then it's in being mindful that they're there that you start find ways to say, okay, now how do I fix this? How do I at least kind of bring this back into some type of normalcy?
You got out of prison and people think it'll be over. You served your time. You good. You're a free man. You ain't got to report no more. Time served. Times served. Did way more than enough time. But you still on parole.
That's right. 40 years of parole. The amount of time, the crazy thing that happened is during my pardon hearing, Fox had given strict orders. By this time, we had had a documentary that was now in the making. It was supposed to be a 12 to maybe 15-minute op doc on New York Times website. And so there's this talented young director, Garrett Bradley is her name. She had already shot a short film prior to. And it was in that moment that she and Fox met one another. And one of the ladies, I guess, in her doing her due diligence about the subject matter that she was writing on, lady said that you shouldn't be able to do this work without reaching out or contacting Fox Rich. To which she did, and her and Fox, had a meeting of the minds, and from that, Fox became also a subject in the first doc that she was shooting. But the first doc was about a young lady who was experiencing incarceration, but she and her loved one were experiencing it on the front end. Fox at that point had almost been experiencing it for 2 decades at that point, and she kind of came in another kind of way into the project. But when they wrapped that project, Fox had mentioned to them about to Garrett about doing some documentary work on this documentary. And to which she agreed. She went back to the New York Times and pitched it, and they agreed and green lighted the project. Well, by the time we thought that they came on board, we thought that the purpose of the documentary would have been able to bring greater awareness to our situation with hopes that we would be able to get some type of relief. Absolutely. Well, instead, this guy Frank, who I was mentioning earlier on that Freedom ended up meeting, he did have the meeting with the governor, and so we kind of knew that was happening. And when I had the release, all of that manifested itself. And in that moment,
what happened is that I had invited one of the producers from the film to join us as a member of our community at his pardon hearing, but never because I know the South and cameras, right? Never did I want them to know that we were working on this documentary project together. And so after giving them strict instructions, do not pull the cameras out until Rob's hearing is over. Overzealous camera guy pulls his camera out, sits right outside the gates of the prison, and immediately before Rob has his hearing, the whole pardon board system is in an uproar, trying to figure out what's going on. And the young man tells the officer that identifies him that he is with the producer from the New York Times on the inside of the hearing with us. So, just for them to give all of that up, put our family in harm's way. So by the time Rob went in for his hearing.
Now, mind you, we're in two separate places. She's in Baton Rouge, which is maybe about 2 hours away from Angola, where I'm housed. So they got a live hearing that's happening in Baton Rouge with the board members. And then they have me on a screen in Angola State Prison with all of the people that have accompanied me at my side of the hearing.
So you talk about a time that you testify?
I go in there thinking that all this is rap, man. I've been knowing for a year that the governor about to sign this thing, man, and it's about to be on, and I'm about to be out of this place. And I go in there, man, and boy, you talking about a hostile crowd.
Yeah.
Well, I had to go in there.
Rob had one write-up in 21 years. You would have thought that he had taken people's lives, cut their bodies up, and buried them in places the way that they treated him.
21 years?
One write-up in 21 years. And you know what that write-up was for?
What?
Information I had put about him teaching a life skills class at the prison. I referred to him as a head facilitator.
So what's the write-up for?
Because they said he was just a tutor. He was a tutor.
You don't get your petty self. What are you talking about?
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Do you hear me? And so that
hold on, you got rolled up for that?
Yeah.
Yes,
So
they wrote him
so
up.
what they said, you
Not
lied?
just wrote him
No,
up.
they
was
said I'm misrepresenting
himself to the public and threw him in the dungeon.
No, they didn't.
For
Yes, they
9
did.
months.
Yeah.
9 months. 9 months.
Rob, you telling me that happened?
Man, that's a
You
true
better read the
story.
book.
That is a true story.
It is a true story. It was just
I mean, man,
unbelievable. It's
They threw you in a hole for 9 months.
9 months.
9 whole months. I'm talking about you spend 24 hours a day in a cell with 1 hour a day that you get, and you got a decision to make to decide how you're going to use that 1 hour. Are you going to go out for yard call and get some fresh air, or are you going to take a shower? But you can't do both. Now, mind you, going out for yard call don't mean yard call. That means that they go out and put you in a kennel.
In a kennel. A real live kennel.
That's about
on the yard.
the half of the size of this room. And you just walk around outside inside of that kennel. But you're shackled and chained. You got shackles on your legs and you got shackles on your hands.
In a kennel.
Inside of a kennel. And you're just walking around in that area. Or you got the option to go take a shower. And so, just in those moments, you spend like that for 9 months. And it was crazy. I got one visit while I was there in particular, where Fox brought the boys up. And this was the first time they had ever seen me
under those circumstances.
Under these circumstances. And man, I'm talking about like, my facial hair had grown out, my hair had grown out all kind of ways, and I was shackled and chained. And it was like in that moment that they all kind of broke down and, kind of like started crying because they had the barbed wire fence in front of us and the whole 9 yards. And
Rob was like, they shouldn't see me like this. I said, this is our experience as a family. It is time for them to visit. And so no matter where we are as family, we are there together. So they must bear witness to this as well.
So in that moment, I remember banging on the window to them in order to get their attention, to which they jumped up. And it was just after the security guy had came in and brought me some food and asked me whether or not I wanted food from the kitchen. And so I said, sure. He came in and brought the tray, and, the kids were still sitting there crying. So I banged on the window, and I said, look, y'all can wipe all them tears, man. I said, because, they can't hold your daddy, man. I'm your daddy. And, they were sitting there looking. So I said, look, let me show you something. So all of a sudden, I broke out of the handcuffs. And when I broke out of the handcuffs, I showed them the handcuffs. And I say, see, I told you, boy, these people can't hold your dad. I'm only letting them hold me. I'm just waiting this out. I'm giving them, an opportunity to fix this because this is wrong. I said, but do know it at any time I want to, I can bust out of here. And boy, they look. They like, that nigga got out of them handcuffs.
I'm over thinking the same thing. I feel like, good Lord, superhero.
In that moment, he needed to be, and he was for his children.
Yes, indeed. But it turned the entire visit around from that point forward. So when the guard would come back in, I flake like I put him back on and clamp him back down or whatever. And then he'll leave back out. When he leave back out, I come back out of him again. And boy, he just got a kick out of it every time. But it was really a saving moment because it really could have.
Did that?
Yeah. The only time because he had never been like that before. I mean, usually we visit and we're at a table together, and now they were visiting their father. As he said, he's in handcuffs and shackles and behind a glass wired plexiglass.
You feel like God empowered you to be able to take them things off like that? You never did that before?
Man, a dude named Eugene taught me how to come out of them handcuffs.
The one guy Eugene.
God showed me through Brother Eugene. And it was crazy. They had a flood in the prison while I was housed in isolated lockdown, but they had a flood in the prison. I was housed in a housing unit that they call Camp J. Camp J is like the worst place you ever go whenever you, like, Angola's already a bad place. Camp J is like the worst of the worst place that you can go into. And they got ready to ship us out of there because they said that if the flood happens from the levees breaking, that the water was going to overtake the unit and we would drown in the space or whatever. So at any rate, they had a state of emergency, and they transported us from down south to a prison up north. So it was maybe about a 7-hour drive north that they shipped us on a bus. But the crazy part about it is that they now keep in mind, Camp J is a place where most guys that are back there are there for like disciplinary reasons. They done stabbed somebody and killed somebody, or in the case of one of my dudes, he done killed like 3 dudes. Not this. Like since he been in prison. This ain't outside of prison. And now all of a sudden you put all of these dudes together in the back of a bus, a prison bus, and you lock the gate on the front of it, and you throw a bucket in there and say, this bucket is basically for y'all to use, go to the bathroom with. But do know that this gate won't open again until we get to our destination. So y'all need to figure it out back there. And man, you got dudes in handcuffs, but at the same time, you got some dudes that know how to get out of the handcuffs. And boy, when they started getting up out of the handcuffs and dudes trying to get their lick back from something that done happened way back when, or you done wronged my family member on the street or something, man, we had a bloody war from the time we drove out the gates of Angola all the way till we got to the prison where we were housed. 7 hours. 7 hours of pure chaos.
And you just sitting there doing what?
No, I was sitting there. I said, man, how you get out these cuffs? He said, come here, man, come here. He showed me how to get out the cuffs. And when he showed me how to get out the cuffs, I was like, well, I'm all right as long as I can at least defend myself or whatever, right? But you got me shackled up. I feel like, I feel vulnerable in this situation. But he taught me how to come out of the cuffs in that moment. But it was for a greater moment that I was able to show my kids in that moment that, because like I said, that really could have been a real breaking moment for them, when I really needed them to be strong.
Mm-hmm. Most people think that when you have your story told in these documentaries, they never think about the unsaid consequences that go along with telling your story. Yes, I want people to be blessed and learn from what we went through. I want people to glean from the resilience that our family was able to display. But because of the fact that we were shooting this film, that and the film team disobeyed my wishes and filmed anyway, violating all we literally could have lost our opportunity at freedom trying to make sure that we could tell this story. And so for me, I'm just hopeful that with the sacrifice that my family has made by Rob being released, but being released on 40 years of parole instead of his sentence being commuted, that folks will really take a moment, watch time on Amazon Prime, and spread the word to other family members about how important it is that we stay out of this system. And in particular, even staying out of the system is contingent upon us staying together. Mm-hmm. We gotta stay together. We gotta get together so that we can stay together.
Y'all done woke me up.
King, you're not tired, huh?
Because I'm sad. I'm so sad. Like, this is just terrible. It's like you still talking about 40 years on
40
parole.
years.
Help people understand what that means. A lot of people don't know what parole means. Tell me what you have to do to serve your parole.
Well, you like I said before, it's kind of like you go from slavery to sharecropping. And that is why this film, the sharing of this story is so important to us, because people like to think that slavery is something that happened like 300, 400, 500 years ago or something. And that some kind of way it don't, like it ain't real no more. But it is very real if you commit a crime in this country. And you can easily slip back into something that was, set 400 years ago will become very real in the moment for you. But like I said, just in that moment, coming out of that into this, that's what it reminded me of. So what that's like for me, I came home with a curfew. So my curfew is from 6 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. This ain't even Cinderella liberty that I got. Anything after 9 o'clock, I have to be working or something, or it has to be justified and approved, for me to even be out, this late. But that reminded me a lot of, a lot of the sundown laws that they used to have in place back in the day, where black people couldn't be out once the sun go down.
Yep.
They catch you in certain cities or whatever, boys, be held to tell the captain.
Yep.
So much of that kind of reminds you of that. Going from one plantation to the next, you needed authorization from somebody that was in charge on the farm or on the plantation where you worked at. And that being said, my parole officer is that person to me now. So anywhere I go, travel or whatever, to be here even, I have to get permission to be over here. To be in studio with you, you know what I'm saying? And to be here for certain period of time. All of those things are very real for me. And I mean, it's just, they run up in your house when they want to.
Really?
Yeah, to make sure you in there. You know what I'm saying? But it don't mean that your family's not impacted. Whoever lives with you is impacted.
Does that happen often?
No, man, this has really been a blessed journey for me and my family. I mean, we have been protected from a lot of the harsher sides of these experiences. But that don't mean that we haven't had our share of the experiences. But like I said, just overall, I've never had a parole officer that, decided that he was going to, come at off hours of the night, wanting to, shake everything up or shake my people up or, none of those things. That's never happened to me.
So what do you mean? They can literally come in there and start doing a shakedown?
Yeah.
For 40 years.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So show up unannounced. All of those things are within their discretion to do. But like I said, just with all those things, travel, again, like I said, is something that you still have to get approved.
You still have to pay the system every month.
You still have to pay the system every month. They had me on a phone system thing where they said that they were minimizing my supervision. So in minimizing my supervision, I had to call in every month. And boy, I swear, it seemed like reporting to the officer seemed to be a little easier because I couldn't remember the phone calls all the time. So I had to set it in my calendar the 3rd of every month. I knew that I had to call in.
And then you had to pay for phone reporting.
Right. So you paid another fee for phone reporting.
And that's not your parole
fee. You paid a fee
fee.
for your parole fees. And then if you processed and you didn't do a money order, then you also had to pay for the processing fee. So
now, that don't count the 21 years and 4 days he worked for 4 cents an hour as an inmate at Angola State Prison.
Right. Well, 2 cents they hold, and they only give you 2 cents to play with because they figure
2 cents.
2 cents.
Yeah.
2 cents what?
They put in your investment account an hour.
Right. 2 cents an hour is what you make when you're incarcerated.
What was you working doing in there?
I was
a
tutor. I spent most of my time on a job was tutoring, and when I wasn't tutoring, I became a student when I was going to school for college.
So here you are doing that, and then that's what they threw you in the hole for because they said you misrepresented it and saying that you're a tutor, but they said that
I said lead facilitator.
Right.
You said that?
I said that.
She was quoting.
My fault.
She was actually. It wasn't even her fault.
Yes, it was.
She was quoting my supervisor.
It was Eve's fault.
Yes,
got Adam thrown in the hole.
Crazy.
God, dog, you like I ain't even do nothing.
Right. And then when they lock me up, I'm trying to figure out what they locked me up for. And crazy enough, when I did really figure out what they had locked me up for, I was like, man, how I get locked up?
Just like you got all that extra time because of the camera guy getting all happy.
Yeah. That's right.
And then like, oh, we're going to put that on YouTube.
That's right. Yeah. And crazy enough, the lady who was supervising me, she's the one that gave me the title. Because she made me the lead facilitator of all of the other tutors. So they reported to me. So for all practical purposes,
that's what you
lead facilitator was just that. I'm like, wow, okay, they really don't get it.
But what? Ooh, okay, I'm trying not to get mad. This ain't about me. Man. I can't stand people doing people wrong. That stuff crazy. My brain, I'll be like, how can I just bring the whole prison system down? I don't even know. I'm sitting there like, something ain't right. I'm like, my brain is spinning.
It is a sadistic, capitalistic, engineered system that is intentional about profiting.
Say that again for the people in the back. Sadistic, capitalistic, engineered system, because it is about sucking the blood out the capital. That's our blood in America. It's our oxygen. Yeah.
And you gather this group of people, you put all of these policies and procedures in place because you know they're going to mess up one of them.
Yeah.
Right? And when they do, boy, well, here come the bloodsuckers.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to need some money for your bond. I'm going to need some money on your books. I'm going to need some money for your commissary. I'm going to need some money for your visit. Oh, as a matter of fact, we're not even going to have visits no more. How about you just pay me some money so you can see their face and talk to them on FaceTime?
They charge for that?
They are taking away visits across this country.
$25.
And they charge $25 for you to do a video visit with your loved one. Baby, the game is to be sold, not told.
The inhumanity in that.
So that's why we do this work. You know, we have to do for other people what God did for us. We were the condemned. We were supposed to die in prison, our family. And because we were willing to have a little bit of faith and a whole lot of sticking togetherness, you know, it say when you're faithful over a few things,
it'll make you rule over many.
You better watch us, because a couple of years, 2 years after Rob's released from prison, we are headed to the Oscars. Now don't make me live. Don't get me to talk about the Oscars.
No, I want you to talk about
the Oscars.
Because he was sitting up here in the cell with 100 musty men, and now y'all sitting up here at the Oscars. Let's testify about that.
That is a testimony. Here we are nominated for an Oscar, and so for us, it wasn't just that our story was nominated for an Oscar, but that a story about a family that was actually condemned, rightfully condemned. Story would reach the mass media in such a way so that people can understand it's not just about the crime that you commit in America that determines the amount of time that you received, but just all of these systems that are in place to re-enslave our people. And so for us to be at the Oscars, so let me tell you about the Oscars.
Go ahead, testify.
You're gonna have to drop one of them pictures from the Oscars in this podcast.
I'm gonna drop it right there. Picture drop.
I can best describe our experience at the 93rd Oscars, the most exclusive Oscars ever, because it was during COVID.
Sure was.
Because it was during COVID, only the filmmakers and the guests could come to the event. Only. And so here we were. We stepped on the red carpet. They put us up at the Four Seasons in Beverly Hills. We stayed at the Four Seasons Beverly Hills. You talk about, ooh, baby.
That's a place like Candace will go to. Candace bougie. That's my fault.
And so
that's something Candace go to. She bougie.
We go to the Academy Awards, and everything is absolutely amazing. King Lateras, we got up to the red carpet. They let you out, and they got this little side area that everybody goes to check their face and makeup and stuff before you walk out unto where it says the Oscars, and they do the red carpet roll.
Yeah.
This staff lady from the Oscars, from the Academy, she comes over and she says, "Excuse me, ma'am." Older sister, and I said, what we did? We ain't where we supposed to be, because I'm trying to look like I belong, because God put me here, so I gotta belong, right?
Absolutely.
And that lady leans over to me and she says, "Baby, I just want to tell you, I have been working here 12 years and I have never seen a dress that bad." Boy, I rolled my shoulders back took in a deep breath because that dress was tight. Checked my lipstick and hair on the other side. Grabbed my baby by the arms, and I said, "Baby, we were meant to be here. God has brought us here." Yes. And then another beautiful thing was, her name is Jennifer, and I can't remember her last name. So she reaches out to me and asks me, could she dress me for the Oscars? She is Angela Bassett's stylist. Oh my goodness. You talk about blushing on the inside. I emailed her back and I was like, oh my God, I would be so honored to have you dress me for the Oscars.
Absolutely.
But I have an incredible woman by the name of Diamond Mahone, who was referred to me by my dear sister from Grambling, Erica Badu, who was willing to not only style me and Rob for the Oscars, but the other most important part to us was we couldn't go to the Oscars without our boys going to the Oscars. Diamond Mahone.
All six.
They didn't go to the award ceremony, but baby, we threw our own party.
We were
the only ones in Hollywood that had an Oscar party that year. Kid you not. We had 200 social justice advocates from all over the country that came to celebrate with us at a party that our sons were hosting while we were at the actual award show. But between Essie Azinzabor, who made my dress, and Don Morphy, who custom designed all of the suits for my husband and our sons at no cost to us. Don Morphy gave all of my sons and my husband their own hand-tailored tuxedo.
Not to rent, but to keep.
Shoes and all for my family. Tell me God won't take your enemies, make them your footstool, and rise you up to where he has ordained you to be.
Rob, I'm going to ask you this. When you look back at this, was it worth it?
I think it was. I really think it was. And I say that because, like I said, when you look back on it, yeah, life could have been a whole lot of different things and a whole lot of other, scenarios could have played out of it. But when I look back and I look at the fact that more than 3,000 people have an opportunity now to get out of prison that did not have the opportunity there. If it was nothing more than me going to Angola and figuring out the argument that unlatched the toppers of the key for those 3,000 people that thought that they were going to die in prison, but it was through litigation that I had crafted an argument for that led to the resolution that changed the law to where more than 3,000 people that otherwise thought that they would die in prison now have an opportunity to come back home to their family members. For that type of, response and, for something to come out of my experience, it kind of makes it, kind of worth the while. Seeing how it is that I've grown as a person, through that hardship. I think it says something to the tune of, judge not, from where a man stands in times of comfort and convenience, but judging where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. Yeah. So knowing that I've been challenged and knowing that I've been among some of the hardest of controversy, and yet still I rise. So it's kind of in those moments that I was like, nah, I was on God's mission. So just being able to fulfill your purpose, in life, or even find one. And it just, this story always reminds me of the one of Joseph in the Bible. And for those, readers that, they pretty much know the story, but to be able to come out of a situation like that, and I didn't necessarily come home and, be second only to a king as did Joseph, but I did come out of a deplorable situation to be among, some of the most elite people, you know what I'm saying, of our society. Yeah. So when I look down and I'm, looking at what I got on, my Don Morphy swag on, and I'm looking at what Brad Pitt got, and I'm like, yeah, he looked taller on the TV. I thought he was taller than that. And I see Angela Bassett pass by, and then her stylist has to now look at what Essie Azinzabor has Drake Fox in.
She came over to speak to us. The stylist, Angela Bassett, stylist, left Angela Bassett to come over to recognize us and introduce herself, and she say, y'all did that.
I love it.
So between that, man, and just even the work that we've been able to do after I left from prison, because I learned this inside of prison. But we came home later to realize that there was an organization that had been started where across the country we have more than 40 hubs, but we teach legal awareness as a best form of defense to people that are justice involved. In that practice, we call it participatory defense. And we judge the success of the organization's work by the amount of time that we save someone opposed to the amount of time that they've been sanctioned to serve. And to this date, we've saved just short of 4,000 years of people doing time in the state of Louisiana. And across the country, we've saved nearly 40,000 years of people doing time across the country. So when you look at those types of things and know that those things were born out of your hardship, that they were born out of your suffering, it's in those moments that you look back and say, okay, this was bigger than me. This was bigger than me. So yeah, it was worth it.
Time is available on Amazon Prime. Y'all go check out that. Part 2, Time 2, Unfinished Business comes out June. What's the date?
Juneteenth, baby.
Juneteenth. Freedom all the way around.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing that it was freedom that got you released?
Yes, sir.
And y'all releasing this film during Juneteenth. Why did y'all pick that date?
Because it's
the
freedom.
Day of freedom.
This film is all about freedom. People say, why a sequel? The first film, it did so well. It said so much. Why would you try to do another one behind it? And to that I say, because it didn't answer my questions. It did not tell folks how Rob got free, the first one. And being a justice-involved family, I don't need to just see that he got out, but I'm thirsty for freedom, and I need to know, how did it happen for you? So to me, it was not just important to show Rob getting free. It was important to show what method did we use for freedom in this new society of enslavement. And even more so, now that we had freedom, what would we do with it? And so to be able to show people that what we did with freedom, because we understood when Rob walked out of those gates that to be free is to free others. So this Juneteenth, we are hopeful that your viewers and 1 million people across this country will join us in watching freedom on Freedom's Day, because to be free is to free others.
Why are you so good, Fox? Why are you just... Fox, boy, I'm going to hire you to do my sound bites and my podcast.
Listen, King, I will work for you.
She speaks in sound bites. You sound like a good Lord, Fox. Good Lord, we get the point. You're great. You're amazing. Okay, we get that. Good Lord. I'm gonna tell you this as I conclude, because my podcast is my personal journey as I discover, uncover, and recover love. See, it's something that Fox will say.
Uncover and rediscover.
Yeah. And so as I sit back and I think about that, as I think about incarceration, my cousin is serving life in prison. Now, this cousin, my Aunt Kay, my mom was pregnant with me, and she was pregnant with my cousin, and my mom said she didn't want to name another boy because she already had 2 sons, and she was like, I don't want to name another boy. I'm just gonna call him Baby Whitfield. And so my first name would have been Baby. And so she asked her sister Kay, she said, hey, you're gonna have to name them. And my Aunt Kay had 2 names, Evatris and Lateris.
Okay.
And I got lucky and got Lateris, and he was named Evatris. When my aunt when I was 1 year old, my aunt, due to her abusive boyfriend having this ideology, if I can't have you, no one can, shot my aunt, killed my aunt, killed my grandma. So I grew up never knowing my grandma. And Evatris still spiraling with the loss of his mom. As a teenager, he started doing, criminal stuff, got arrested for assault with a deadly weapon. No, not assault. He got armed robbery. And as a teenager, got life in prison. And so as I sit back, he started writing me letters probably about 10 years ago. And I'm reading the letters and I'm like, what can you do? And, it's just so overwhelming when you look at that. And me never having a relationship with him at any point in my life, I come to learn about him through letters. And so I'm looking at this and I'm saying, what can I do? What can I do with Evatris? And to be honest with you, I did nothing. because I felt like there's nothing for me to do. And so what I love so much about what y'all have done and what y'all are doing is that y'all remember the forgotten ones. You guys have built advocacy to help those where people felt helpless. Even myself, with the influence that I have, I still feel helpless. That's a system I know nothing about. It's a system where I be like, I mean, it can just take over your life if I start getting inundated with that mindset and try to figure out stuff and talk to this person and try to change legislation, all that stuff. And I be like, selfishly, I don't have time for it. And I look at this, that's why it's so powerful about how you are advocating for your husband through those moments. It brings me great hope. It brings me encouragement. It lets me know what love looks like. Love doesn't fail. And I love the fact that you have rallied behind your husband and you haven't said, he free, so we good. You said, we're going to help free some other people. So I salute y'all, Black king and queen, on the advocacy work that y'all have done, the amazing amount, those numbers that you just rattled off about how many people have been helped through your organization. It blows my mind. And so I just want to say thank you. I want to tell y'all that I love y'all, that I honor y'all, that I admire y'all, that y'all are my heroes, not just heroes from a judicial mindset and overcoming policies and that type of stuff as y'all fight for that, but in love. Y'all are love champions. And I respect y'all and thank y'all for blessing the Dear Future Wifey podcast. As we wrap up, how can people follow y'all? How can they support y'all? And how can they support this dynamic film?
You've been talking all night. I thought you had it. So we are Fox and Rob on all social media, and we are Fox and Rob on all social media. And our film is coming out June 19th. And you can find out more information about it at time2movie.com. And time, TWOmovie.com, to find out more information about it. And what else did we have?
It's going to be on Amazon Prime, right?
Yes. Later. First, we are releasing it in this campaign because overall, for us, the mission is to get 1 million people watching Freedom this Juneteenth. That's what our aim is. And we hope that your viewers will be 1 in 1 million watching with us and having a conversation about freedom, and even being able to go through a guidebook and toolkit that you'll be provided to get to freedom. Because I think it's really important that we understand we have a responsibility to reclaim our people from this system.
Absolutely.
To reclaim our people from this system.
I love it. So make sure y'all support Time. Go watch Time, the first one first. Go watch that one now, and then you go watch Time 2 when that releases on June the 19th. Make sure y'all support 1 million people. Isn't that a full circle experience? He got the revelation that he needs to be her husband at the 1 million man march. And now here we are. We're looking for 1 million viewers to watch this. Hey, y'all give it up for my homies, Fox and Rob.
Thank you so much for having us.
Stay tuned to the end for a letter to my future wifey.
And writing these love letters to you.
Ladarian, thrusted suddenly into Child Protective Services in 2015. My nephew, Black, a boy. The likelihood of being adopted outside of kinship, slim to none. Armani, 16 years old, Black, a boy, with 5 years in the foster care system before I even knew his name. The likelihood of ever being adopted, yep, you guessed it, slim to none. While Ladarian and Armani were trying to survive and barely thrive in an overpopulated and underfunded foster care system, I was living my own life, doing well professionally. Having been a single father with a daughter who at that point was doing well in college, it was my time to live my life, right? Wrong. I felt unsettled, tireless, agitated. There are just too many of our Black children stuck in ambiguity and in the limbo of the foster care system. In 2017, I legally adopted my nephew, Ladarian. Fast forward to 2019, I had no ties to this other young king, but I felt God instructed me to adopt him also, and I obeyed. Starting over with parenting should have been enough, right? Working with various foster care and adoption agencies to help bring awareness to the countless young Black kings in the foster care system should have decreased my agitation, right? Joining the board of directors of Advantage Adoption, an organization that helps find permanent adoptive homes for children in foster care, should have led to some type of resolve, right? No, not at all. None of it felt like I had done enough. I now realize that every one of those experiences was laying the fundamental foundation for my life's mission, Kingdom Royale. Kingdom Royale will be a luxury, state-of-the-art home for foster boys. Our first location will be in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We will utilize the whole person approach that instills identity, empowers them to advocate for themselves, and enlightens them regarding new perspectives and limitless options that they thought were impossible. Though the young kings will attend the local public schools that are in proximity to Kingdom Royale, our at-home curriculum will broaden their worldview through participating in the arts, attending various cultural events, learning about and engaging in multifaceted discussions about current events and even relevant historical context, introducing them to gardening and landscaping and even caring for our animals on our farm and on-site stables. We just launched our Startup Capital campaign with the goal of raising $2.8 million. Now, why $2.8 million? Well, in 2017, I created a web series in which I performed random acts of kindness for targeting the homeless community. One of the most notable successes was that one of the videos went viral, garnering 28 million views. However, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't raise a single dollar to help in implementing a more sustainable plan for the homeless community. So throughout the years, with much remorse, I reflected on not maximizing that moment. I knew if at that time, just 10% of the viewers donated $1, we would have raised at least $2.8 million that could have really established long-term support for the homeless community, or at least started a long-term initiative to do so. This is my do-over. This is our new beginning. Together, we can attack this at the root by specifically helping our homeless Black boys who are already disproportionately represented in the American foster care system. I'm Lateris R. Whitfield. I've been nominated for 3 regional Emmys documenting my work with the homeless as well as my personal adoption journey. Despite those accolades, the greatest award for me is truly providing the infrastructure for a transformed life. Visit kingdomroyale.com for more details. Crown a king and make a donation today. I have to take a deep breath and a sigh of relief. There are certain episodes that just, I don't know, it just hit really differently. I don't know. It'll take a minute for me to unpack this. It just bothers me the level of injustice that the two of them went through, and especially Rob. It's like, I don't know, just how optimistic he is, and the question I asked, if given the opportunity to do it all over again, would he do it again, or was it worth it? He said it was worth it. Oh, he built differently. Well, anyway, here's my letter to my future wifey. Dear future wifey, before I ever knew your name, I prayed for you. In whispered words on lonely nights, in the silence between heartbreaks, in the stillness after surrender, I sent my petitions to heaven. I asked for a woman fashioned from God's own heart, someone who would love me, not because I'm perfect, but because we're committed to perfecting love together. And then you appeared. Not in the way I imagined, but in a way only God could orchestrate. Every conversation felt like confirmation. Your laugh became my favorite sound, and your presence felt like a peace I'd only known in dreams. You were the yes to prayers I didn't even know how to articulate, the kind of blessing that walks in softly but changes everything. You, my love, are evidence that God hears. You are the answer to the ache I carry, the companion I long for, the partner I believe for. You didn't just meet my desires, you exceeded them. You challenged me to grow, to lead, to love better. I look at you and I see grace in motion, faith rewarded, hope fulfilled. You are more than beautiful, you are meaningful. Every detail about you is laced with intention, and I don't take a moment of you for granted. So when I hold your hand, know it's in the grip of a man who prayed long and waited well. I didn't settle. I surrender. And God sent you, your future hubby. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dear Future Wifey Podcast. Remember, be lit, live intentionally and transparently, and don't stop loving. Make sure to subscribe to our Dear Future Wifey YouTube channel. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We welcome your support. Simply share our podcast with your friends and family.